Hello, everybody. Grant Hunter here for the Product Growth Leaders topic of the week. Steve, it seems like everywhere we go, everybody we talk to, we just had the recent topic of the week on burnout, and it seems like most product management organizations are struggling, right? There seems to be whether it's burnout, whether it's not being valued. And so this week we decided to talk about healthy product management. Let me ask you this question. Have you seen healthy product management in the wild?
Ooh, in a while changed my answer.
I said in the wild, like in the wild.
I have, and having said that, I can't think of the company I'm the name of the company I'm thinking of right now, but I've encountered organizations where I go, wow, you guys do a lot of things right. And I think maybe some of some of the stuff that we see is because we are talking to people who know they don't have healthy product management and they're bringing us in, right?
So bias on that side,
there's a bias there of the people we're talking to. And, for all of us, if they weren't screwed up, they wouldn't need you, right?
Yeah. I could argue there's this idea of continual improvement, right? We want to, even if we're healthy, we want to continually be sharpening the saw, as Covey would say. But yeah, I think there's probably a bias that comes to the people that come to us are probably struggling with something. So, well, what we did was we put the question in the community on Monday. What does healthy product management look like? And Eva came out of the gate real quick, as she always tends to do anymore. She's not here on the call today. Healthy product management is where leadership treats employees with as much empathy as the product managers treat their customers. There are no egos. There are no judgments. And I thought that was a really nice way to think about it, right? When it comes to empathy and where we're going and those types of things.
Can I respond to that?
Yes, please.
I wonder if there is what's healthy and then there's what's ideal. Like you're never going to get an environment where there are no egos. I think it's important to just address that. That would be great, but you are operating in companies that are anywhere from 1 to 50,000 probably. And in terms of organizational size that matters, it's usually around 500 tops, but still you're going to get egos. The question is, how are they managed? How are they incorporated?
Are the egos fed or are the egos tempered, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd love to get other thoughts on that. Is it possible? I mean, you hear people, at least in sports, check your egos at the door and that type of stuff. Is that something that's possible? Charles?
No. Look, in any organization and thus any product organization, everybody, although they act in a coordinated manner towards coordinated goals, is ultimately acting out of self-interest, right? And that's not necessarily a bad thing. And we like to think that people are thinking about how the broader organism and the health of the organism works and all that kind of jazz. But ultimately, it just plain breaks down to the goals and interests of the self.
Yeah.
If we are talking about what constitutes healthy, and May, that's a great point, because there's a big fat difference between what's ideal and what's going to be an organization. Healthy for me means that everybody is engaged in what they're doing, that they're informed with what they need to be informed with in order to do their job, that they're acting in a coordinated manner, and they have leadership that is willing to give them the leeway and the flexibility to do that. I've seen a lot of teams that work well together because they are engaged and they're interested, and just plain, quite frankly, they're willing to hustle. One sec. It's not COVID. when I say hustle, I don't mean in the Mr. Musk has just taken over Twitter and everybody is giving over their lives to the company, but that when it's time to work, we're willing to work, and we're willing to work towards a common goal, and work with in it, like I said, an engaged, informed, and coordinated way with the people that we work with. And so even if that team isn't the best of the best, we're not necessarily talking major leaguers here, even relatively new people, if they're approaching it with that, then they can get some good things done.
No, I love that. It actually made me think of an exercise that I'm doing where somebody gave me this: make a list of all the things that you do and separate into two lists. One is loathe, things you loathe doing, things that take your energy, and things that you love doing, things that give you energy. Sorry, my phone was ringing. Sorry about that. But I think, Charles, back to your point, I think that if we get this place where we can be like that, we're doing more things we love that energize us than we're doing things that we loathe that take energy away from us. That's I could see healthy going there. You sort of made me think about that. Jason Weber said it's funny because he's never been in a situation where he thought it was truly healthy. He thinks healthy is allowing product managers to do what they do best and limit as much of the external distractions as possible, and utilize the PM input to make proper strategic decisions. And Calvin, how did you react to that? Do you remember? Unicorns and rainbows, right?
I just read it and I just kind of laughed about it because it's yeah.
But you went into strategies, efforts, and research that are designed to solve market and segment problems. Talk to me more about your thoughts.
Well, I mean, I think what happens is that we end up going down. There sometimes is a focus on those things that are not what we're really trying to solve. You know, we end up going down this. You know, we end up taking a right turn and going down a road that takes us away from what our real intent is. And that, the real focus is trying to solve a customer problem, and not some of the other nonsense that we get dragged into.
Yeah. And it would seem to me, if I look at, I can think of a couple of places, not that I've worked at, I've tried to make healthy product management when I was a leader, but sometimes there are things outside of that. But when I look at companies that I would hold up as maybe where I've seen healthy product management, one of the core things is the whole leadership team was aligned behind markets and problems, right? They got the idea that we were solving problems for markets full of customers, and they didn't let the shiny object or the big deal really take away from that. And I think that's a place where healthy could come in with that. May, in your go ahead, Joy.
If I can just interrupt rudely. One thing that I'm noticing is May kind of, her comment made me aware of it. And this may be more about the state that I'm in right now. But when you say healthy product management is different from ideal product management, and kind of what Steve said, just because people are doing product management right, that doesn't mean that it's healthy. So I feel like you can be doing ideal product management, you can be doing things right, but it's still toxic. I was thinking more, it's like a healthy environment. And I said healthy product management has healthy product leadership. And I think those are two different things, healthy and ideal.
I could completely and totally agree. And I was going to have May dig in on that a little more, right? We talk about doing product management right. What I think in my head, when I'm in this came from our conversation last week when we talked about healthy product management, I think it was more the product management organization versus the product management process. Although I think a good process could help with create a healthy organization. Calvin, you have a comment, and then I want to get to May.
Yeah, quickly. And one of the other thing that I wrote, which I think addresses some of the questions that Joy is raising, is that sometimes the product management and the toxicity of a product management organization is reflective of the organization as a whole. And if the organization as a whole is less toxic, there's a good chance that product management as well won't be toxic.
No, I completely agree. And Joy actually had suggested earlier this week, we do a topic of the week on toxic company or toxic manager, which is worse. So I think we may get into that at some point. But May, I'd love to dig into your thoughts, right? You said if you have good product leadership, healthy product management has nothing to do with product management, but the context in which product management exists. And again, I think this is where my head was when I wrote the question, because I think going back to the conversations we've had before, talk to me about your thoughts.
Well, like coming from the perspective of product operations, which is like the context in which product management exists, it's a lot more than just how do you do product management. It's how do you do product management in the context that you have to work in, and how fast is your company scaling at the same time, right? What is healthy today is not the same as when you add 10% more people, 20% more people, you just restructured, you added a new product line, whatever it might be. Product management has to evolve, and healthy is not a state. So what I feel is healthy, because like I don't think any of us have really truly, like, or at least very few of us have ever really truly experienced what a healthy environment feels like. I mean, there are aspects of jobs that we've loved in the past that felt healthy, I'm sure, right? So what is it about that? And for me, like my best experience is when we are moving in the right direction. So in my opinion, healthy means it is an organization that's moving towards working better, and the people feel like going back to Charles' point about like engaged and people who are interested in the work, it's that, and people also want to push things forward, and things are moving in the right direction. So you come into work on day 1 versus day 90, you feel like it's a slightly different job, but it's better because it's a place where you want to work more. Not like work more as in more hours, but like you're enjoying your work more as a result of that positive change. So I think it's not a status. Like it's not you are healthy versus you're not. It's today, how are people feeling, and tomorrow, are people feeling better?
Yeah, and it gets into some directionality of it. If you were at I'm writing a piece on the life cycle of product management in organizations, and one of the phases is atrophy, right? If you're at a product management organization in atrophy and somebody comes in and starts reinventing and evolving and moving the direct way, hypothetically, you could be not as good or not as healthy as other product management organizations, but because you're better than you were 90, 180 days ago, you're moving in the right direction, directionality, we're going to feel more healthy about it. I can see that. And to your point of it's not a state, Cory had put the question in there. I had sort of question on it. Meaning it's always changing, it's always moving. Is that what you meant by it's not like a fixed state, like solid or liquid?
Okay. I mean, that's how I feel about it. I have a chemistry background, so for me, states are like the context in which it exists, and therefore it's in the state.
Yeah, no, I get it. Cory, your thoughts?
So the word I picked apart this week was healthy, and what does it mean to be healthy? And that's where I went back to what does it mean to be a healthy person? Right. There's some criteria that I would use. People had used, others have said, if you're in a state of health, it looks like this, and if you're not healthy, it looks like this. And there's varying degrees of that, right? You can be in a state of better health than you were yesterday, or you could be in a state of worse health than you were, trying to get better or whatever it is. And so I applied those same kind of guidelines for healthy product managers. I did do management. I did managers.
Okay.
Maybe I don't know if that's a distinction without a difference, but it's good sources of information on customer business problems. You've got good measurements for things, usage, churns, things like that. um, you have some time to think about what you're doing, and plan out some ideas or work through some things, and a few things to do. And then the conversations and any updates you have with customers, your team or your company, you're getting those out pretty regularly. So you're having good, positive conversations about some of those things. And that's what I would say is probably a healthy product manager. And when I feel like I'm doing my best, those are the things that I think are happening
on an individual level. And if you have multiple people feeling healthy about it, you maybe have a healthy organization, although there's always the external factors
Right.
when it comes to that. Joy, I want to get back to you. You talked about healthy leadership. I want to ask the question then, what does healthy leadership look like?
Healthy leadership is more than just words. Healthy leadership is supporting you. You know, I've had managers say that, oh, I'm here to support you. I'm here to make you look good. And they're just words. Healthy leadership is shielding you, possibly from toxicity in the other company, the rest of the company. It's shielding you from politics. It's ensuring that you can focus on the right things and be an ideal product management state, doing the right things for your customers and for the product. And last but not least, making you feel good about yourself and that you're doing good things.
I love that. I think that's some great points right there. Cory.
So, Joy, I'm reacting to the healthy leadership is shielding the team from toxic behaviors. Healthy leadership is getting rid of toxic behaviors so they don't exist to be shielded from.
If only that could be the case.
It can be. It can be. It's possible if people were willing to do the work needed to do that. Some of them aren't.
Okay.
Does Charles just get back to the self, right?
So I was kind of chuckling a little bit, and I was also glad I was on mute because my chair apparently needs a little bit of grease added to it.
My phone already started ringing, so we're all good on this call. You don't need to
Okay, great. Right on. Cool. Well, with any luck, my clock will ring the bottom of the hour while I'm talking. No, so I've worked in very, very large companies, and there are pockets of I like working with those people, and there are significantly larger pockets of people who are just attempting to cope. And for the most part, all of the lower level people are acting out of goodwill. But nevertheless, as soon as those groups end up needing to compete with each other, that's where this, kind of toxicity that we've been talking about. And if we're picking apart healthy, is the healthy that we're going to keep on living forever? That we have the vitality to be able to withstand the things that are coming in from around us? Or are we just focusing on the toxicity thing? I think would be kind of a question that we're talking about here. But for me, ultimately, everybody is going to be acting out of their own self-interest in those larger organizations. And it's really nice and comfy to have an umbrella protecting you, right? You need to have that thing that is creating that environment that then it sits down and sets the tone for the organization below it. But this person can't control what happens here. And if these people are a bad scene, well, then, you've got something else to talk about. It's like, ultimately, a lot of companies are really into environmental claims right now and how they're working towards improving the environment. They're not doing that because they're good people. They're doing it because they get the headlines that are coming out of it. And so I think that we can liken back the goal of having a healthy workplace is actually just a necessary evil for larger organizations, because that's what they need in order to retain the talent to continue to function. What was that, Cory? Cory, say it loud, what you just put in the chat there.
So yeah, that's one of those things where, you can extend people's life long past when they, I don't want to say should be alive, because shoulding is a bad thing. But I mean, there are people who are just hanging on, right, for dear life, but their quality of life just sucks. And do you want to live at a company that sucks just to last a long time? or do you want to have a better job at a better company? To me, and that's what I've learned, is I'd rather have a better job at a better company than want to poke my eyes out every day that I have to work for somebody.
My wife, when we met, worked for a major Belco, the regional Belco here, and she's talked about how it was like everybody in their cubes just kept their heads down. They never wanted to be noticed. They never wanted to be. And to me, Cory, that's what you're talking about there. That is, these are the people who they're getting a paycheck. But they're happy being at a toxic organization as long as they keep their job and keep their head down. That's not for me. I wouldn't call that healthy. I look back on my time as a product leader, and I feel good. I was an air cover for my team guy. I was a get them out of the weeds, right? Let them focus on their job type of person.
Notice also that we have not said a healthy project manager is one who pays you enough and is a short commute to work, whatever that looks like. That's not healthy. That's like criteria used to pick a job, but that's not healthy at all.
Yeah.
Well, if you choose to put your head down because you're getting a check,
it could factor in, if the company, if the product management leadership supports a work-life balance, that could be something that would factor into that. Steve, you've been awful quiet, and I'm wondering if I don't have a healthy product management here at our company. Have you been biting your tongue? Because
no, I'm enjoying hearing what everyone else has to say, and I've been kind of pondering myself, what do I think healthy looks like? And I think healthy looks like competence, that all the departments with whom we work are competently staffed and managed, and that there is respect among organizations. And certainly there have been cases in the past where I have found salespeople lacking respect for developers and vice versa. A story I have told a number of times, I don't know if here, I came to a company and the president said, development is broken. Can you help us with that? And I said, well, maybe, let me find out. And I went to development and said, I hear you guys are broken. And a long series of things happened, but I figured out where it was broken was in the executive team, that every week they got together and completely changed the company strategy. And the developers had gotten to a point where they don't work on anything for a month to see if it's still around a month from now.
Yeah.
So anyway, to me, healthy is competence within a department and respect across departments.
I like that. It's competence within a department and respect across the departments.
And one of my jokes is nothing seems hard to people who don't have to do it. Right. And yet, I think in many cases, developers look at sales and say, that looks hard to me. Going out and pitching product and having people say no to you so often. And yet so often salespeople don't have that same respect for development. They're like, how hard is it? I mean, it's just code, right? And I'm like, great, here's a keyboard, start typing.
Yeah.
Turns out it's a little harder than anybody realized. But I think respect is an important thing, which also comes from the top, I suspect.
And I've been in places where within a function, whether it's product or development, they thought they had a healthy function, but they weren't getting that second part, that respect across the organization. So within the team, and where I've seen this most is these development teams that are like avid agilists, and it's like they're practicing agile. They're not building products. They're more focused on that. So they were great. They were doing their stand-ups. They were learning. They were growing, but they weren't like getting stuff accomplished. They weren't getting stuff done. And they had fun together. They were healthy together, but they weren't delivering stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting. Any last thoughts on that first question? What does healthy product management look like before we go to the poll? All right. So the poll question on Wednesday: what is the barrier to healthy product management that is hardest to find or create? And our options were leadership that cares, working and learning from great people, proper resources and time, support for proper market discovery, and other it depends. May, I'm going to start with you. You were the person, you came in working and learning from great people, one of the ones that came in at 10%. Talk to me about your thoughts.
I might have clicked the wrong button.
Okay.
But yeah, I was going for leadership that cares, but I clicked the wrong button. So I'm gonna pretend like I voted for the right thing. So I think it's hard to get great people in, and like the only way to get great people in is if they share your vision. I remember reading somewhere that great people join a company because of the vision and they stay because of the leadership, right? So a lot, you need both, and it's rare to get both across an entire organization, because even if you think of the best place you've ever worked, there's probably someone there that you didn't like, and almost always that someone is in a position of power. And it's true, like this is the way it is. I'm sure there are anomalies out there, but even the best people will eventually outgrow a growing business, right? Like you have great leadership, your company grows, and then there comes a time where you don't know how to operate in that space anymore because it's not your expertise, or you've never done it before, or you're unwilling to change because you've built something and you're really attached to it, right? Like it's normal. So I feel like maintaining that place with great people is extremely difficult. It's why there's so many topics about like company culture and how you quote maintain it, which you don't maintain culture. It evolves from how you hire and who you bring in and how people work together. So I think like maintaining the great people, if you already have it, or creating a space that attracts great people is exceptionally difficult, but that stems from leadership, and leadership not only cares, but are competent and engaged and do the right things and are experienced, etc. Yeah.
No, I agree. I did vote for leadership that cares, but I make working and learning with great people. I only have once been on a team that I thought was amazing. Everybody on the team was amazing. The weirdest thing or greatest thing is every single person on that team thought they were the weakest link. Every single person thought they were the weakest link. And so I look at working and learning from great people. It's so elusive, right? I have found leadership that cares more often than I have found teams of people I'm working with and learning from that are great to work with. So maybe I'll defend your answer and you just defended mine. Joy, you also were in leadership that cares, and obviously that goes, it doesn't surprise me. Any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, again, probably because of the state I'm in, that was my, gut reaction, leadership that cares. But then there were some comments, well, what do they care about?
Yeah.
So leadership that cares about you, leadership that cares about the product, the company, the problem that we're solving. And I think once you have that, then you are working and learning from great people. They care to get the proper resources and time, and support for proper market discovery all comes from leadership that cares about the right things.
So often these answers could be like lead to each other, right? What's the root cause? Because if you have leadership that cares, you can actually have a better chance of building teams that work and learn from each other, that have a great time, and you have proper resources and time, and you have the support to do that discovery. Cory, I think Joy referenced you as somebody who talked about what do they care about. Any more 2 cents on that?
Yeah, it's the leadership for me. It's just, are they setting the right environment for the right things to happen, or are they perpetuating the bad things by either ignoring them or wishing they would go away?
Yeah. No, it makes a ton of sense. I get that. Calvin, you went with the support for proper market discovery, and it sort of aligns with your answer from Monday.
Yeah, I mean, for me, and I guess it's something that my answer is probably reflective, like Joy's, of what I'm dealing with now. Sometimes, I mean, we're in environments where leadership will say, yeah, we know the problem. and not taking the time to invest in the possibility that their assumption may be wrong. So
Yeah.
it's really understanding what problem we're trying to solve, who we're trying to solve for. And I think in most of the organizations that I've been in, there's not been enough due diligence on that, with the exception of an earlier major shipping company located in Memphis, where where there was kind of an implosion, and we had to kind of scale back and say, all right, wait a minute, let's go out and understand. And we really attacked understanding what customers wanted. But that was after the fact, after things kind of imploded.
Yeah.
In companies going forward, that there was just not enough product discovery prior to going down the road of creating the product.
So part of getting healthy in the organization is to make sure we're starting with markets and problems, and we're going that way.
Yeah, and I mean I think that the knowledge of that, the understanding that that's important is important.
Yeah. I get it. It makes some sense to me.
Yeah.
Charles Topping, if you were going to vote, I don't think you voted, or did you?
No, I didn't. The funny thing is, I was on the phone with Steve, and he says, "Oh, which is the hardest one?" And he explained to me what the poll was, and I said leadership. He says, "Yeah, leadership's the first one." But I will make a point here about, let's just talk about sheer probability of being able to work with people that you like or that are good, right? And let's call them exactly the same thing. So if just as a thought exercise, let's say that you've got a 50-50 chance that an individual is going to be good or bad, right? To make it really distilled down. And there's 3 people on the team. That means that there's 50-50 times 50-50 times 50-50. Each one has a 1 in 8 chance of happening. The likelihood of you getting all 3 people are bad is 1 in 8. The likelihood that all 3 people are going to be good is 1 in 8. And so every other opportunity is going to be a mix of the good and the bad. And that's why it's so hard to find that team of even just your core team of being the people, even if you're attempting to select for it, that it's so hard to just find that, because it really is a sliver. And so if you find yourself in that condition where you think, gosh, this is the product organization that is running the way that I would really want it to, then hold on to it while you can. But the other ones are all different mixes of other things. And if you're on that other 1 in 8, then leave.
Yeah.
But there's a certain amount of acceptance that we're all going to make, that even just on a 3-person team with that thought exercise, the vast majority of the opportunities are going to be, mixed. It's why rolling a 7 is the most likely thing in a 2 dice game, right?
Yeah, it's interesting, because the more you were talking about this and the more I was thinking about my experience, I think I would change my vote to working and learning with great people. It's the hardest or most elusive to find. You just gave me the math of it, right? The more factors there are, the harder it is. Steve, did you vote?
I did not. And, my inclination is to vote for leadership since everybody else did, because I can be a follower. But I'm going to take May's accidental answer. And so take her vote away, and I'll take working and learning from great people.
Now you're making me feel more confident about the stuff, because we're healthy. We're working and learning from great people, each other, right?
There we are.
I think like one experience I've had was I was working with absolutely incredible ICs, and we were struggling with, a couple people in management or leadership. So, but even then, we still were able to get things done, from like the product managers being able to work with people. Like, yes, there were a few more struggles. Yes, it was really hard to get changes pushed, which is, what I do. But at the end of the day, it still felt good, because most of the people we worked with, going back to Charles's comment, is like they were all great people, and we were still engaged, even though we were frustrated. Because like we were still working with amazing people. The problem came when when people stopped complaining. So one of the things I wrote in my answer was, you know, you can tell when things are really unhealthy when people stop complaining. At least I think that
The
was
quiet
last
quitting.
week. Let's not call it that. That
Okay,
phrase has
that's
no
fine.
meaning. But it's like when people stop complaining, it's because they stop caring. They're not engaged anymore. So I think it's important to keep that in mind. As long as you have people that care, they will probably complain, and that's a good sign.
I like that. I do like that. All right, let's go to our first question. As a product leader, what would your approach be to attain healthy product management? I know it's not a state. I had already written the question. May. What would your approach be to attain it? To strive, to maybe move towards it, to make positive movement? Cory.
Approach to obtain healthy product management. I don't know. I'd probably
you
go back.
take over a product organization that is not healthy.
Yeah, I mean, I'd go back to those four things I listed. As, you know, do we have good data? Do we have good conversations? Are we making frequent updates? And do people have time to work through issues? And if you don't, which one is the most glaringly obvious of, you know, what good might look like or healthy might look like, and fix that one? Or where are you already close and can be a little bit better with that?
Yeah. My last product leadership job, the first week I spent just talking to everybody in the team to understand their issues and, you know, what was going on, their complaints, their, you know, open book, you know, I can't fix it if I don't know. And there's some things you can't fix, right? That are above you. But for me, it was having that, starting with that dialogue, right? Understanding what's working, what's not in their mind, you know, where I can make, and that's where I was able to find some quick wins, you know, to be that umbrella, right? To provide that air cover, to enable them to get them out of the weeds in certain things. You know, first, you know, to May's point, right? If you're moving in the right direction, doesn't matter what, you know, it's starting to feel a little healthier. And maybe that's it. It's a directionality thing. Calvin.
Yes, and so you're thinking, I was thinking exactly what you said. Building a place of trust, you know, so that's the team feels comfortable airing those concerns, you know, both those that are healthy and those that are, or both those are unhealthy, like toxic, and areas of opportunity to build the team better, whatever that looks like.
I love it. Charles, what about you?
You set the tone, right? You as an individual are a tone setter. And if you set a tone that is upfront, that is strong, that is protecting people from the things going on around them, that lets them do what it is that they want to do. So, you know, aside from what Cory said, which would be the operational steps of things that we're looking at, the comment I'll bring is just being a positive, strong tone setter for we get this done. And I have personally used that dozens and dozens of times, walking into a room where it's time to make everything happen now. And that's about standing up and setting the tone for what everybody else is going to be doing.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it's being a leader, right? It's actually being a leader in helping set that tone. Joy.
Yeah, I like all of these answers, setting the tone, interview, you know, talking to the people on the team. And I would just add to that if there's a cancer on the team, get rid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Don't
an
be
old
afraid to-
great line for hiring, which is hire slow, fire fast.
Yeah.
And most companies do the opposite. In one case, I was working with a QA person who had been cast out of development. And the president said, yeah, but he knows all this stuff. You know, let's put him someplace where he can do no harm. Let's make him the head of QA. And he became the release prevention department. And we had a release where the developers and I came in on the weekend to do all the QA tests without letting anyone know. And then we introduced, I mean, we relaunched the product the following week. And what's his name went crazy and went to the president and said, Steve released this without QA. And I said, no. I released it having completed all the QA tests. I just didn't involve the QA department, which kind of gets back to maybe an unhealthy toxicity in the organization.
Well, if there are, and that goes back to your respect across the organization, right?
Yeah.
So we need to be doing that type of stuff,
and that's
maybe
where I was going to go. You know, my first step as a product leader was to instill competence in my team, making sure that they had clarity on roles and clarity on process, and then socialize product management across teams, because considering that few product managers know what their job is, it's not surprising that development and sales and marketing isn't very clear on what the job is.
Yeah, I'd say that more than 50% of the product leaders we talk to are struggling with getting the senior leadership to understand the value of product management and what they should be doing in the strategic and business role of product management. And as such, part of it, we're sort of building a plan, right? We need to have the operational stuff, as Cory talked about. We need to have set the tone that Charles was talking about, right? Make sure we're providing air cover, but we also need to make sure that we are helping the organization understand the value of product management, both the senior leadership team and our partner teams, right? The development, design, and whomever else we're working with. Maybe as part of that, you're doing your discovery there. Let's sit down and talk with the head of development, understand what their issues and problems are, where do we need to fix some stuff, where are things going wrong. I was talking with a product leader yesterday. They were struggling with, requirements and consistency in writing requirements. I'm like, have you sat down with the development team and said, what does a good problem story look like? Right? If that's a first place to start. Let's start with making sure we're setting the same expectations with them, with where we're going. So this is all coming together nicely, sort of a multiple prong approach to do it. So May's going to top it off.
Okay. So as you're going in and learning the context and asking people what their problems are, right? One really important question to ask yourself is this something you can fix? Because there are organizations that are extremely resistant to change. There are organizations where everyone's like, this is broken and I want to love what I do. So that I think it's first about that attitude. Second, when people complain, they say, I need a roadmap so we have clarity, right? But that's not the underlying problem. Anytime someone complains, it's always like probably 2 or 3 levels above the actual core source of the problem. And it's all about understanding and then addressing the systemic blockers underneath it. Because yeah, you can put band-aids on things, and sometimes that's the quick when you need to hold the organization together for the next 3 months. But that's not going to solve the actual problems. Like if you go and fix an underlying systemic core problem, maybe it's an agreement that's missing between groups. Or like maybe it's like an actual process that you need, and I hate the process word. So like maybe it's something like that you need in order to get things to move in the right direction. But like you need to do that work to really dig down and understand, okay, what is actually broken? Yeah, this is missing, but like this is missing because of this, which is broken because the leadership don't talk to each other, or we're just like not telling people what we're doing. There's no visibility, there's no transparency. What is it? Like, are we not agreeing? Are we not sharing with Dev what the roadmap was? Like that might be it. That might just, having a conversation might actually solve 90% of your problems. So really digging down into that core problem is the best thing you can do, in my opinion.
So unearth what are the core root problems that are causing it to be unhealthy.
And then prioritize, because there's probably a giant pile of them.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there is. I mean, in everything we do, right? It gets me to the next question. Are you ever done? Right? Is it ever done? Are you ever done attaining healthy product management?
Yeah, when you're 2 feet up and 6 feet under.
When you die, that's the only time you're done.
Well,
Calvin, answer that. What is the definition of done, Calvin?
I don't know that answer, but it sounds like something out of the Agile framework.
I mean, but yeah, I mean, for me, I don't know if you're ever done, right? Market
are you ever
change,
done
product-
being healthy?
Are you ever done attaining health?
I mean, you know, you get older, you need to exercise more. You need to eat less salt. You need to, you know, cut out all those poisons out of your life. I mean,
Yeah. So you're never done.
you're
Unless you
never
give
done
up.
being healthy. Although I
gonna
do
try
love
that.
those old people in Russia who say, "Oh, I've had vodka every day and a pack of cigarettes every day," and I'm like, living the dream.
I just
Steve,
think
you're
I found the
gonna
opening
pry that
quote from-
salt from my cold dead hands. I'll tell you that.
Cory.
So, are you ever done attaining healthy product management? Yes. Then the problem becomes, how do you maintain it?
Keep it, maintain. Okay.
So I can get to a healthy
Ooh.
state of things, and then my problem switches from that to maintaining. Now, what frequently happens, and I've done this a few times, is I get to a healthy weight or a healthy system, and then Christmas comes and I eat all the Christmas cookies and everything else. And now I'm like, okay, how do I get back to that? Because obviously I've fallen out of it. So I have to obtain that again or attain that again. If
Mhm.
I had stuck with my protocols, you know, everything that I mentioned of what healthy looks like, then I wouldn't have to attain it again. I would have had to maintain it. So I think, yes, you can be done, and be done may take you 6 months, 5 years. You may never get there being done. But once you are done, your focus and your problem shift to how do we maintain this and keep it going?
I love that. I've been writing about this idea of continual improvement, right? If you do get to healthy product management, how do you just continually sharpen that saw and improve it so you don't atrophy, you don't eat all the cookies and have to
But
re-engage.
that's I want to call that out as that's very individualistic. And when you're talking about, by the time you get to healthy, you're probably at some sort of slightly larger scale, right?
Yep.
So I think it's important to call it continuous improvement. Like if you think about it from a manufacturing perspective, the likelihood that you're going to retool an entire factory is highly unlikely, right? So by the time you get to the state, you're probably pretty optimized. And I feel like when you attain a thing that doesn't require a huge amount of change, but you have people dedicated to continuous improvement like you do in a lot of physical
Lean
places.
manufacturing, always
Yeah,
looking at.
not just manufacturing, but like, grocery stores have continuous improvement people.
Mhm.
So wherever you have continuous improvement, where you're focusing on like smaller optimizations, as opposed to like here when we're talking about major organizational transformations, which is where I think most people are at right now. Like I don't like it's hard to get to the place where you can even just think about, we're talking about small transformations, because the companies that we generally come across as product managers are not places that are ready for that yet, right?
Yeah.
Like I mean, in a way you can say, well, manufacturing definitely isn't there, but they're on a totally different time scale, right? Like when you're
Yeah.
talking about software, it's much faster. Like things evolved a lot faster, and we have the leeway and the leverage to evolve a lot faster. So I think it's important to think about, like, in terms of like, are you putting in the effort and the resources to do that minor continuous improvement? Because it does make a huge difference. Like otherwise, there's no way manufacturing with their tight, narrow profit margins are going to invest in that.
Yeah.
But they still do. Why?
But you're looking at continuous improvement versus maintaining, right? Maintaining is keeping a status quo, or continuous
Yeah.
improvement is getting better. I'm trying
So
to work between
I
those two phrases.
Yeah, so I'm talking about continuous improvement as in like not just maintenance. I don't think
Yeah.
it's healthy to maintain ever. And like it's like people are like, we want to maintain our great culture. And like, first of all, you don't have a great culture. But second of all, you can't maintain a culture. There's no such thing, right? You got to evolve it, or you got to grow it.
No, I get that. I like that.
Yeah.
Steve, thoughts?
I'm still stuck on Cory's remark, which is, May, you're older than you've ever been, and you will always continue to get older.
That's true of everybody.
It's true. That it's hurtful.
I hate to
but-
burst your bubble, May, but
Indeed.
Oh, but then you're getting to actual age versus body age, and there's ways to fix
yes,
it
we
that
can
way.
have debates about that too.
But nonetheless, I
anyone-
mean, you're never done, right?
Yeah.
It's like owning a house. You want to replace the carpet because that will freshen the look, but the roof leaks. So, you got to prioritize the maintenance over the improvements. But at some point, there's no more maintenance, and it's time to start, redoing the bathrooms and replacing the carpet and doing improvements. And I think all of our life is that way. It's, the way we deal with our own health, the way we deal with a healthy house, and the way we deal with a healthy team.
Can we rephrase this? Instead of healthy product management, is the healthy lifestyle of product management?
So I'm stuck on, I can clean my office and it's clean for like 5 minutes, and then somebody messes it up. It's
And
not
that's
the
usually you.
Shh, Steve. I could clean it, but to keep it clean, that takes a lot of work. And I may decide, after 5 minutes or after 5 days that, hey, I'd like this bucket of bills over here instead of over here because it's out of my line sight. That's an improvement, maybe. But I still have to work to maintain that. It is not just, it sits there and it's not a museum.
Yeah. It's not a museum yet.
And even a museum needs to be dusted and
True.
maintained, even
So
though
some
there's no one
things is
living there.
maintaining, some things are improving, but it's always happening.
Yes.
All right, I think we can go.
Nice wrap up.
I needed to get on to lightning round. Why is striving for healthy product management important? Calvin, you're on mute.
Mental health and well-being.
Mental
it's good-
health
it's-
and well-being. Yeah.
It's also good. It's good for the organization because ultimately you're looking to build products or solve problems for customers. So
are you going to do everybody's answer, Calvin?
maybe.
All right, mental health, mental wellness. I can't even speak. It's good for your organization to deliver stuff. Charles, topping.
The bottom line.
It's good for the bottom line. Love that. Joy.
I'm going to +1 Calvin and say mental health and wellness.
Mental health and wellness. Cory.
Agree. Mental health.
Mental health.
Your mental health, by the way.
Your mental health. Well, and other people's mental health too.
They have their own problems. I have mine.
All right. May.
Human beings spend 20% of our adult lives working, so we might as well be happy.
So that's just another way of saying mental wellness.
It's beyond that.
Okay, I like that. Steve.
I'm going to go back to an old favorite, morale.
Yes.
Similar to, but a little
metric.
different there.
I want to change my answer.
Okay, Cory.
Sanity.
Sanity. I like that. I'm going to sort of do an amalgamation of them delivering results, bottom line, while being sane and with mental health. Bring them all together. That's what we need it for. That's what we need to do. What a great conversation and a great panel. Cory, Calvin, Charles, Joy, May, Steve, thank you so much for an amazing conversation. It really got me thinking about healthy product management and what is that and how do we attain it and where do we go with it? And, I'm already ruminating on some things right now, maybe things to write, maybe things for the future. But thank you guys so much. We do this every week. On Mondays, the question goes in the community. On Wednesdays, the poll goes in. On Fridays, we have these amazing calls. So thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend. See you next week in the community.
So long.